Hey, what's going on, everybody? James Collins here, CPWE.AI and CPWE.BIZ. Chris Stevens as well. Tonight we have Josh from NLS.Solutions. Um, Go ahead and introduce yourself, Josh, and maybe some of the projects that you're working on, some of the things that you are willing to share with us. We'd be happy to explore what we can add to your situation with how we can help with AI in the future, or maybe where you are looking at AI in the future, things like that. Go
Yeah,
ahead.
for sure. Yeah. So NLS it stands for Next Logical Step Solutions. We started it about 2021, just after COVID, um, and started out with a completely different set of folks um, as we tried to figure out like what is the market um, for the services we provide, and um, we had done some database development at a previous occupation, previous employer, um, but we were never able to really mature it to the place where we wanted, and so it was basically time to move on to greener pastures. Um, and so we do what we do is project controls, which if a lot of people don't know what it is, and I've spent 25 years trying to explain what project controls is, and so I will do my dead level best to give the Cliff Notes version. So we are a subset of project management, right? So um, in the project control or the project management envelope, there's typically your safety, your quality. They're managing the project, but there's also the cost, the schedule, and all those things. And those facets, cost, schedule, risk management, all those things are pretty like calculation intensive. The math is simple. I had pretty much all the math skills I needed by the third grade, but the it's a lot of data, and it's a lot of data processing. And so, you become really good at crunching data and cleaning data, um, and things of that nature. And so, it's interesting. Like we're we stand in the middle of the project between what's going on in the field and what's going on in the financial realm, and keeping the project on target. Um, and so it's a pretty interesting line of work. It's unique. It's very niche. Not a lot of people even know it exists, and not a lot of people know that the skill sets kind of transcend just doing project management, right? Um, I actually at one point built a database for a lady who was wanting to keep inventory on a beauty products store or something like that. Um, but anyway, so um, we I was living in Alaska. I moved the family down to Abilene where my wife had a job. Decided I'd follow her for once as opposed to her following me around for the last 20 years. And got a call out of the blue from a guy I had worked with before, who said, hey, we could use some help. We got a little project in Abilene. And I was like, oh, yeah, that sounds interesting. He goes, you want to come out and work for us? I'm like, no, not really. I I'm good. I'm good. Kind of got my own thing going. I think I'm gonna stick with this. And he's like, oh, okay, all right. And so he calls me back, I think like a month later or something. He's like, hey man, he's like, I think we can still use your help. And then it goes on for a few months off and on. And I'm completely oblivious to what this project is. I guess I was going through I'm not paying attention to the news moments. Y'all ever go through that where it's like you just get a
All
little
the time.
worn out?
Hmm.
Yeah.
I
So
try to go through it all the time. I just can't seem to get in the groove of not looking at
I
the.
I know, man, it's tough. It's addicting.
Hmm.
But anyway, so turns out. and I can actually say this now, it was one of the Stargate projects. It is the Stargate project, the pilot project for it. And so we ended up not contracting with the company that is the GC. We ended up contracting directly with Caruso AI, um, and they've been outstanding. I mean, as far as like first real huge client, um, could not could not ask for a better group of guys. Um, Super down to earth, just it's crazy. I mean, you would think, a totally different scenario, but these guys are pretty awesome. The but So yeah, so we came in, we did some discovery work for them, just to kind of see if there was something we could do to help. Um, and then we found our niche. We're doing some schedule support for them, um, hoping to kind of grow that over time, um, and we've got our own set of tools that that we're developing since 21 to crunch all of this data, and make it make sense. Um, Efficiency is kind of our stick. Like we always want to be able to hit above our belt. I think that's a really I think that really sets NLS apart from a lot of project management, project consulting firms that they really want to bill a bunch of hours, right? That's how they make their money, and I don't begrudge them that. Um, but we want to be efficient, and it's as much for us as it is for our clients. It's cost effective for our clients, but it allows us to diversify without having to really um, to hire a lot of folks, right? And develop a lot of overhead that a lot of outfits end up doing. And if we can manage it, we won't. Um, Obviously, we need humans still. So AI hasn't solved everything for us. And actually, we're just now getting started with you guys, um, to start looking at some of the data that we have, like talking about maturing the tool. Like that was where we wanted to go, right? Like that was kind of always the vision, is that if we could organize the information properly and we had good processes and stable information, that we could eventually, hopefully, even if we couldn't get it to basically do all of the project controls on our behalf. And there's a lot of projects are dynamic, right? And a lot of the reason is because they're made up of humans, and humans can be messy, and the information that they create is inconsistent, right? Not good data for machine learning, right? But if we could mitigate some of that and drive quality through processes and our tools, then we thought, well, perhaps we can create a model that actually does a lot of the analysis piece. So we're all about force multipliers. Um, I was in the Army. It was kind of like a thing. You you know give a guy night vision goggles, and suddenly he's way more lethal than um, the guy who's basically walking around the dark blind. Um, and so that's kind of where we're at. It's what we're wanting to do, is to basically add AI as a means of augmenting analysts. Um, we want to be able to take the people that we have that are talented, that've got years of experience, and they've honed their skills over decades, and be able to set them at the top and basically be fed an analysis, or an assessment of what's going on, and read it, and actually, is it right? Does it feel like it's reality, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, and that allows them to basically hit way above their belt. We also have our office here in Abilene that we're bringing on folks. Project controls is kind of it's going through a rough spot. there's not enough of us to go around for all the big projects that are out there between the government work, all these data centers that are going up.
That's not a bad problem to have, though.
It's not, but it's bad if you can't supply the personnel, right? If it takes a lot of humans to crunch your data or to run your processes or things like that, then you're not going to be able to find the right people, and it could, in a case, lead to failure,
Mhm.
or a client that's just not satisfied. There's a lot of clients that are just fed up with consultants. They come, they talk, but nothing actually ever gets done. And so that's how we want to be different. Like we want to be able to hit above our belt. We want to be cost effective, and we want to deliver for our clients in a way that others can't. Um, being nimble, being anti-fragile, as the book goes, is pretty important to us. And so, also the fact that project controls is so niche, there's not a lot of people coming into it, and there's a lot of us that are graying on out the door. Um, and so we've got to find a way to backfill folks, and I think giving them the proper tools and allowing the AI to assist in the analysis, then I can take my more senior folks and train those people to appreciate what we're doing, how we do it, and deliver a high quality product to our clients. And I think that's pretty huge. Um, so yeah, that's a lot.
I like the way that you framed that, using AI as a tool instead of a replacement.
Right.
Because I think that there's two camps that get it horribly wrong a lot of times. One is the people that think, oh well, AI can replace my whole organization. No, it can't. 15 years
Not
from now,
today.
yeah, not today though. And then there's the other group that think, oh, AI is going to take my job. Well, hopefully not. You know, so I like that it's framed as a tool and not a replacement.
Yeah. And I think, like there's a place for folks like, you know, this occupation does not require a 4-year degree. It doesn't require a master's degree or a PhD. Like I said, I had most of the skills that I needed by the third grade. As far as I'm concerned, it was lost work opportunity the other, 9 grades. So the it takes somebody who's got a questioning mind, likes to dig into mysteries, because there's always something in the data that's not quite the way we think it should be. People again are messy, so things don't work the way that you want them to all the time. And so having that inherent curiosity and willingness to dig into the numbers. If you're a numbers person, it's super helpful, but it's not necessarily required. Um, I have met project controllers who had degrees in pre-med, biology, sociology, economics. Those economics boys, they do tend to work out pretty good. They like the economics of it, right? And basically, a project is just a miniature economics, like, microcosm, right?
Mm.
Because of all the financial schedule. There's, you know, we deal with tariffs and escalations and all these different factors that are external to the project, but they influence the project, right? And there's a lot of financial modeling and things like that, and those guys are usually pretty giddy about that kind of stuff. So
I get that
economists,
way.
yeah. So that's but like here in Abilene, we have 3 universities here in town, and we're looking um, to start uh, bringing in some interns. Um, if you're listening right now, we do paid internships. So, wink. Um, the and just we're gonna have to go through a lot of folks and um, to find the right ones that are the perfect fit. Um, but there's tons of people out there who need work, who are willing to learn. Um, I mean, I think I pretty much went from high school to this.
It's amazing.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I noticed you said in 2021 that you guys started up and you wasn't growing as much until you identified your target customer.
Yep.
Wow, what a it that overlaps us and every other entrepreneur in the market. Um, Defining that key customer and having that established niche that you're in is so important. So, how do you define your key customer now?
Um, Ideally, um, a client that's basically pretty open-minded about um, just. I think I heard someone say on the project that if we have to do it the way that we've always done it, then it's probably not going to get done. And I think that was I think it was actually one of my clients. So if I'm misquoting you, then and you hear this, sorry. But I think it rings home, right? Like these projects, they move fast. A lot of our clients are trying to move their projects really fast. A lot of them struggle with GCs. Um, we have another client in Colorado who's having a similar issue. We hear it all over the place. We have another client that looking at, and again, it's the same thing. Like they want to go faster. They don't want to spend more money, but yet we're in this like really strange economic climate, and yeah, you can't do things the way that you always have. We focus more on the data than making the contractor or the GC generate a bunch of reports. Um, give us the information and let that be your report. And then as far as making it pretty and making it human readable, that's what we focus on. Um, and then feeding back to them if we find quality issues or things of that nature, kind of really partnering with them as much as we are with our client.
On that feedback, would you like to talk about your software that you built? You mentioned real briefly you built databases, but there's one specific that seems to connect back to a customer and feed real time data and make life really well
Yeah,
organized with them.
yeah, we call it Looking Glass. It for multiple reasons. It's a reflection of your data, right? Um, and it also predicts the future, really. Um, you know, we use multiple sets of metrics, and we have an algorithm that basically um, takes all of the, where are we at now? Where have we been? Where do we plan to go? And makes an educated guess and determines the confidence interval that, um, how accurate is the number that it conjures up. So it might say that, you're going to be 28 days late and $10 million over budget, and it's 70% confident that you'll hit that number,
That's
which is
incredible.
better than just throwing a number out there, which has been kind of the way in which project controls has always operated. Like everybody just wants one number, and that's the number we're going to rally around. And then there's a lot of disappointment, right? Like people, it doesn't pan out exactly in a very deterministic way. It's like risks, right? There are threats, there are opportunities. Um, we model the weather into the project, because weather has a big bearing when you're building things outside. And so, being able to deliver to them a confidence around a number and a date, um, something that they can build contingencies around and be prepared for, right? Because
It
things do not
seems to
always
me
go the
like
way you want.
a primary customer may be insurance agents. I may be out of line there, but it sounds like risk management and knowing a project where it's at in its infancy to its maturity.
Hmm.
Um, Knowing how much to insure seems like a very logical next step.
Right. Yeah. So going back to your question about our ideal client, when I first started thinking about who would be our ultimate client, it was more on the investor side and the banking side, insurance, like you pointed out. But it was also with the owners, um, or GCs. I mean, it's whoever is willing to think openly about how we approach project controls. We're not a conventional project controls outfit. There are a lot of tenets of project controls that um, are extremely valuable, but we always take them with a grain of salt and try to mitigate the rigidity of them with risk analysis and some common sense.
And risk analysis seems to be coming up a lot. Is there specific GC? Does that mean
General con-
government?
General
General
contract.
contractor.
So the risk for a general contractor, does that affect the bottom line typically?
It can.
Okay.
It just depends on their contract. Um, it it really depends on that. If they have liquidated damages in their contract or things like that, it can yeah, it can cost them. And it's one of those deals where the earlier we're brought in, the better. We came onto the project that we have, both projects actually that we have right now. We were brought in after a lot of things had already happened, right? And so, you know, we're having to play catch up in a lot of areas, um, which is fine. Um, they probably didn't know I existed, and I definitely didn't know they existed, so it's fair. Um, but I think the earlier we're brought in to be able to think through and what the strategy will be to control the project, um, it's generally a better. I mean, we can get the appropriate language in the contract to make sure that information is being delivered from whoever, right, at whatever level we're working at. Um, and that's really the key, is being able to get your hands on good information and having the tools and the processes up front. And that's one of the things that we're kind of um, almost modular in the way in which we do things. Um, so if you want us to just do schedule, we can just do schedule. If you want us to just do costs, we can just run your costs. We can do your change management, or we can just come in and run a risk analysis and give you the results and walk away. Um, the but to really get the value, the 100% of the value, you'd have to have us in there in the beginning. And as we grow, mature, and we prove ourselves, then I think those days will come.
So my background is a configuration management professional with Lockheed, and I dealt with software specifically. So risk management and project controls is in my wheelhouse, and I'm really getting giddy about this. I didn't know it existed either, so I'm in that boat where uh, the controls as a service really fascinates me. And then I looked into NLS and the bigger scope. And I'm just incredibly humbled to have you on tonight. So I really appreciate it, and
Thank you.
sharing all of this. It's not the most elegant of subjects to talk about records management and talk about forms management and process management. However, every company knows they need this, and
Yeah.
Josh specializes in coming in and setting up your systems. So that is a synopsis of what I got out of that, and I'm fascinated. I cannot wait to dive in to see more of this, to see how the numbers crunch together, and we are looking at bridging that with AI for sure. Chris and I are. And so for those out there who may have just joined, I'm seeing our numbers go up in the past 10 minutes. We have Josh tonight on from NLS.Solutions, and primary contract right now, Stargate AI. He has went over what he does, and so far we are about 26 minutes in on our broadcast, and I always like to respect your time and make sure that we don't go over it, especially at your level. And so is there anything that you would like to ask or add, Chris?
No, I was taking notes over here. I'm ITIL certified, if anybody cares. So
I'm software CM certified.
well, yeah, the IT information library with the change of it, all that kind of happy stuff. Those were some hard exams too. Oh my God.
Wouldn't wish those on my worst enemy.
Those exams were like the Air Force tests where every answer is right, but one is more right than the other was.
Exactly right. Like a Microsoft test.
Exactly.
Those are terrible.
Yeah. No, I like I said, I've got my notes over here. So
shout out to my dad who's watching. I see that. Do you know my dad, Josh?
I do not.
His name's Jubal Collins.
I did not know that.
He works there in Waverly.
Oh, okay.
I think he has a mutual acquaintance that may be watching right now too. If I was guessing, his name's Jason.
Oh, okay. Jason. Okay. Hey, Jason.
Jason.
I do.
They're fanboying on us tonight.
Oh, good. Good.
And I really, really, really appreciate it. So I'm going to go ahead and stop the stream. Please comment below if you have any questions that we can forward. If you have any, especially niche questions, I think that was the most fascinating to me, is how you had to restructure for a current customer and find your niche and find your customer base. That way you could expand your business. That is a very common entrepreneur problem. They don't drill down to their primary customers and figure that out. And you did, and it sounds like you're doing very well. And we have a simulator there in Abilene, so I've been there 100 times at least, and likely we'll be going back there.
Well, come on by, we'll feed you. There's plenty of places to eat.
You can count on it. We'll be there.
Sounds like a plan.
Thank you.
I think the just one thing for those who are out there who are trying to decide whether or not it's time to roll up the carpet and hang it up and go back to the 9 to 5. It's a matter of just time. Like, it took us years before the right opportunity at the right time with the right people to kind of all come together, right? And so sometimes it's just time waiting for everything to line up. So if you're out there struggling to figure out whether to hang on just a little bit longer. Good things will come.
Thank you for that. On that note, good night, everybody. We really appreciate your